This here is Fleshers Haugh, and this was the birthplace of the world's most successful football club, Rangers. This is us now at the West of Scotland cricket ground, where Rangers competed in their first ever Scottish Cup final.
And what does it mean to you both to be Rangers fans?
It's a way of life, isn't it?
Thank you so much for showing me around today. I cannot wait to find out a little bit more about Rangers and the history of them and the foundation of them. Could you just firstly explain who you both are and your business as well, the Founders Trail?
Yeah, I'm Ian McCall, one of the organisers and owners of the Founders Trail.
And I'm Gordon Bell, he's a colleague.
Perfect.
Yeah, and we've been doing the Founders Trail for a number of years now, which tours we take coach parties around about Glasgow, telling the wonderful story of the guys that formed Rangers Football Club. The bus tour itself has been running since 2009, and unfortunately, same with everything else, which came to a halt because of the pandemic, but hopefully we'll be back on the road soon.
Amazing, yeah, and it's an amazing history of the club as well. The more I've looked into it, the more intricate the stories get, and which is why I'm so excited to chat to you two today about Rangers and a bit of the earlier history. So if you could just explain then, firstly, where we are just now on the first stop, what's the significance here to Rangers?
This here is Fleshers Haugh, and this was the birthplace of the world's most successful football club, Rangers. The wonderful fact is, today, almost 150 years later, it's still a football ground, you know, and hopefully it will stay like this for a number of years. It was back in the early 1870s Rangers came up with the idea, or our founders, as we know them now, came up with the idea of forming a football club. And even though the family were based, the McNeils were based in the West End up in Berkeley Street, Peter himself, Peter McNeil, one of our founders, would come across here on a Saturday morning and take it upon himself to stand guard here until he'd be joined in the afternoon by his friends, and that's where the Rangers story started here. It wasn't enough that these guys were competing. These guys that formed the club in the early years wanted to be the best at what they were doing, and that has stood our club in good stead over the last 150 years. They were training constantly. They were only teenagers. They weren't taking no for an answer. They were writing to senior clubs at the time, such as Queen's Park, who refused to come down to play them at Fleshers Haugh because they didn't have their own ground. But as I said, they refused to take no for an answer, and they just kept pushing forward, and that, more importantly, it kept Rangers moving forward.
And it sounds like they had great dedication to come here and not only just come and play and train 6 times a week, but also to guard the pitch from anyone else being able to use it as well in that time, you said as well.
That's right, Sam, that's right, because you've got to remember, these guys had jobs to go to.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't full-time paid professionals. These guys had jobs to go to, and no doubt in many occasions they'd be working 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day, but they were still coming down here and training under moonlight just to hone their skills and to keep Rangers moving forward.
And think how tough the world was back then, in the industrial era, where they'd have to defend this land to try and play on it.
An incredible effort. You know, there was all sorts of sport and pastimes going on down here at Fleshers Haugh, but as I say, Peter McNeil would take it upon himself to come across here just to ensure that Rangers was somewhere decent to play our first few games.
And we're just over the road from where we just were, where the club was formed.
In the Glasgow Green football centre.
Amazing. And this says, in the spring of 1872, 4 young boys, these are the founding fathers, left their rowing boat on the nearby River Clyde, and upon these fields formed a football team. This was known as the Rangers Football Club. It was their determination to succeed that led to the Rangers becoming one of the world's most famous football clubs.
Small plate at the bottom, I said it was unveiled by Heather Lang, granddaughter of Peter McNeil, on Sunday the 6th of September 2009, so that was the actual granddaughter of one of our founders.
Oh wow, yeah.
Who came along and pulled the cord, and we were really honoured to be joined by the late great Sandy Jardine
Unbelievable.
for that particular event. And it's been here, and hopefully it's been here since 2009, hopefully it'll be here for many years to come.
Rangers fans, thank you so much for all the support on my first ever merch drop, the one that is before this one that I'm about to tell you about. You bought all the canvases, all 20, so a huge thank you. And of course you beat Celtic last season. Now there is one area where Celtic are beating you. Look, here is my Celtic canvas, and here is my Rangers canvas. This is my smaller one, as you can see behind me, one of the bigger ones, and I've had some great reviews on these, and I've been told the quality is actually amazing. Like, I'm really, really happy with the way they've come out. But yeah, although you won the league last season and Celtic didn't, they'll only have one Celtic one left, whereas they have 3 big ones left of the Rangers ones and only 2 of the small left. And it also comes with a free hanging kit, free postage. It will be linked in the description box below. The first 2 links will be to my small and my large Rangers canvases. So yeah, don't let Rangers down. Make sure you buy these before this last Celtic one sells, because yeah, prove that you're the best fans out there. Thank you very much, and back to the video. Look at this, the sun is now out. Surprisingly, it was a thunderstorm when we first came up, but oh wow, there's a plaque up there. Wow, so could you just explain what this plaque means and where we are now, like the significance?
This is us now at the West of Scotland cricket ground, where Rangers competed in their first ever Scottish Cup final in 1877. It was an incredible achievement for the boys. Again, they were only teenagers and they'd managed to fight their way all the way to the Scottish Cup final, and their appearance here attracted a huge crowd. Yeah. So just 4 years ago, we decided to mark the ground here. We had this plaque placed, again highlighting the spot in the city where we were. And as it said at the bottom there, which is vitally important, these games were to change the course of Rangers history. Yeah. The first game that we played here against Field of Leaving, that ended in a 1-1 draw, and it said it attracted a crowd of over 8,000, but there was many more thousands been locked outside. A month later, we came back here for the replay, and that game went into extra time. Now, during the period of extra time, Rangers scored which they looked upon as a perfectly good goal, but the ball had actually went through the poles, and the bit of tape across.
Yeah, there was no nets or anything like that back in the day as well, yeah.
But the ball had clearly went through the goal, but as the crowd cheered and turned, the ball was in the goalkeeper's arms. Now, there was a gentleman standing behind the goal, a professor by the name of George B. MacLeod, and he was prepared to take an oath and vow that the ball had actually went through the goal, struck him in the head and landed back in the goalkeeper's arms. So incredibly, there was 3 umpires had been appointed that day to judge to referee the game, and 2 of them said they hadn't seen what had happened, and the 3rd guy said he was too far away. The game then was abandoned due to the crowd encroaching onto the park. It said there was filled with bowler hats and umbrellas as both sets of supporters clashed. The game was abandoned, and unfortunately, a couple of weeks later, the Scottish Cup 1877 was eventually decided at First Hampden, Vale of Leaving 1-3-2. But these 2 games here, in the March and April of 1877, were to change the course of Rangers history, because the crowd that attracted, and the Glasgow public took the boys and the club to
Sounds like it put them on the map.
Definitely, that's exactly what happened. From that fledgling boys club back at Fleshers Haugh, this was them now into a fully grown football team.
And so how many years between where we first started the video, back when they had that first game, where they used to guard the pitch to train, to this cup final? How many years between that?
That was only 5 years.
Only 5 years?
That was only 5 years from them forming the club. And we have to remember, clubs like Queen's Park, etc. had been running a lot longer. But the fact they'd managed to get themselves to the Scottish Cup final and then be cheated out of a perfectly good goal.
Unbelievable,
it was so frustrating, but what an achievement for the boys.
So we've just left the West of Scotland Cricket Club, where Rangers played a famous cup final, as well as where international football was born. And we were just saying, weren't we, it's a little bit disappointing how there's not more to commemorate such a famous footballing place.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. These places should be highlighted with plaques, and that's possibly...
And you've obviously got your plaque there, which is great to see, but we were saying that maybe the authorities or council or government could do something just to commemorate these stories.
That's right. As I said, you'd be hard pressed to find any literature, or even a Visit Scotland website, or articles highlighting the West of Scotland Cricket Ground. And the fact that was the birth of international football. That very place, it's really frustrating.
And so where are we now? We're about a 3 or 4 or 5 minute drive or something away from.
Yeah, we're now here at Burnbank, the west end of the city. Rangers were at Fleshers Haugh, also the birthplace of the club, from 1872 to 75, and we moved up here in 1875. We were here only for 1 season. We took a lease from the Glasgow Rugby Club. Okay. And we opened it with a game against our old foes, Vale of Leaving. and closed it a year later.
So where would the pitch have been around here then? So this would have been the old home of Rangers pre-Ibrox, right?
Where we're standing just now, we're actually standing exactly where that photograph was taken. Now, during the winter months, when the leaves aren't in the trees, you can actually see the steeple there.
Yeah,
of the
which would be through there somewhere.
Lansdowne Church, and the Lansdowne Church still stands there today. So we're standing in the exact spot where that photograph was taken, and we can only hope that's a young Rangers team playing away there.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Playing away there on the foreground. But again, the tenement buildings started springing up here, and unfortunately, the ground.
Did they win
was
anything
lost.
at this ground then?
They didn't. Well, they were here. No, they were only
Bit of a
here,
transitional
only here for
period,
a year.
yeah.
But one of the players, Alec Valance, who was a brother of the great Tom, he suggested that we move to the south of the river, to Kinnan Park, and that was the first time the club had moved to the south of the river, and that's where we're going to take you next.
So we're still just at Burnbank now, and then you can just start to see the spire through there. Like you say, the trees are obscuring the view slightly, but yeah, you can tell that's where we are.
More or less standing exactly where that photograph was taken, looking across what was Rangers' second home here at Burnbank.
We were at Fleshers Haugh first off, and then we're at Burnbank, and then now we're here. This is the site of the third Rangers stadium, isn't it?
Yeah, at Kinnan Park. Yeah, we were here from 1876 until 1887. We're standing exactly where the corner was of the stadium. You can see the church there, the Church of the West Kinnan Park Church, and that steeple there that we can see is exactly where the lamppost is now.
That lamppost, yeah.
And
so the motorway, as people may be able to pick up on the noise of this clip just now, you can probably hear it, is just there. So every time I leave Rangers from filming one of my videos, I'm driving home, I'm literally driving through where the centre circle would have been for the
driving straight through the
third Rangers home.
Centre of the ground, yeah.
Unbelievable.
As I say, we were here for 11 years, and unfortunately once again our lease expired, and the club, the grounds committee, had a meeting at the time, and one of the guys in the committee had actually seen that there was ground available along at the Ibrox part of the city.
So we're getting towards the
and the Rangers committee at the time, who have to be given great credit for that, predicted the growth of Glasgow further west, because it was pretty barren out there at that point, but they predicted the growth of Glasgow further west, and that helped Rangers move along.
This is a map here you've got of the first Ibrox and the second. So there's basically been 5 homes of Rangers, right?
Correct.
We visited 3 already, and now we're currently on the 4th. Even though you can see Ibrox right there, there was a 4th, or the one that is before the current Ibrox now.
Known as First Ibrox, yeah.
And so what happened to it? Why did it go, and why have they sort of relocated just over there?
Owned the land. We were here for 12 years, from 1887 until 1899. The Hinshelwood Trust owned the land that the ground was on, and they wanted it for redevelopment, and they asked Rangers to move 200 yards to the left.
They leased them the next part of land.
Yeah.
Just further up.
Oh, okay. But it was from what you've shown me in other photographs as well, it was not like it is now where it's all built up. It was very sparse, wasn't it?
The great Tom Valance, who we spoke about a few times today, he held a cake and wine party within the pavilion, which is shown on the booklet of the page of the booklet there, and that pavilion sat just behind that building there in front of us. Held a cake and wine party, and we played Preston North End to actually to open the ground. There was a huge attendance, huge crowd turned up that day.
And is that a picture of the first Ibrox there?
From roughly here, from this position we are here.
There's a load of
in this street at the back there.
It's load of factories and stuff.
Yep.
So that's what we can see now. That's first the current Ibrox, and that was
almost from the exact same position.
And so where was that picture that you just showed me of the houses as well, backing onto it?
That's right behind you.
So that's there, right?
Right. So if you look there, you're actually standing with the lamppost. There's a lamppost right there.
This one here?
Yep, that's it there. So there's what they call Ibrox Terrace, which is there, and that's Ibrox Terrace in there. And that's
the one in the back is the gentleman pictured there.
So that's
with the terrace at the back.
So that is those houses there.
Yep.
That's policemen, you said, on a sports day on the first Ibrox.
Government Police Sports Day in 1897.
Wow.
Right.
So we're currently standing where Rangers would have played.
Yep.
Exactly.
Right. So there's the houses there.
Yeah.
So it's probably the middle of the road was with the back fence.
Yeah.
Of the actual
what was most important, Sam, was this was the first time since the club had been formed, and that we'd actually somewhere we could actually call home.
Yeah.
This was now Rangers' home. We weren't
bit nomadic at first.
Yeah. Fleshers Haugh was very much a public park, and Burnbank Kinnan Park with a lease on. But this was the first time that we could actually call somewhere home. 1899, the Hinshelby Trust, they say due to redevelopment, asked us to move the 200 yards to the left, and of course we've been there since 1899 in that wonderful stadium.
And looking at it now, just from your two perspectives as a Rangers fan, not being inside for over a year, you know, with what we've all been through, how does it make you feel just looking at Ibrox?
You always
get a buzz every time
you
come
get
here.
a buzz, a warm, happy feeling every time we come home, you know, to our stadium, and hopefully not live too much longer.
I'm missing getting in the front doors for the tour. We've been over 100 times, we've been there 100 and whatever times. It's still a fantastic buzz walking through that front door into seeing the marble stadium.
Oh, I bet, yeah. We're now in Craigton Cemetery, and here we have the resting places of some of the founding fathers and their families.
Yes, we have Peter McNeill, who's a founder of the club. His stone is there in the middle. Of course, we spoke about Peter back at Fleshers Haugh, and he was a boy that travelled across town from Berkeley Street and stood guard in that piece of ground just to make sure Rangers had somewhere decent to play those first few games. His brother William, just mentioned below there, William was a boy that stormed off from Fleshers Haugh with a ball under his arm, and their parents, John McNeill and Jane Loudon Bain McNeill. In plot, they're actually numbered as plots 500, 501 and 502. In plot 502 with James McNeill, he was an older brother of our founder Peter, but he had no involvement in the football side of things. His wife Lucianne and their son James Brodie McNeill, again here on the left hand side with Alexander McNeill, again an older brother of our founders. But again, he had no involvement in the football side of things. Now, back in 2007, this is how we found the plots shown in the photograph there. It was only Alexander McNeill's plot there, it was actually marked. Yeah,
you can see there, and then the two empty spaces, whereas now we've got this.
And we managed to make contact with James McNeill's granddaughter with a proposal to put these stones in. Also, a founder of the club is not going to be left lying in an unmarked grave. And Mrs Perry, James McNeill's granddaughter, she allowed us to take her into Glasgow City Council. We got a copy of the title deeds. Got some fundraising done through the Restoration of Rangers Graves project, and in 2013 we placed those two stones.
And you were telling me that this is one of the older parts of the cemetery, and you can tell that these two are newer.
It is indeed, but as part of the Restoration of Rangers Graves project, we have help from many Rangers supporters. We've a retired couple from Airdrie, Jean and Les, and they come across here at least once a month to keep these places tidy, these final resting places tidy, so that people can come along and pay their respects.
It's a lovely gesture to the people who you owe your football club to, basically.
It's a wonderful example of the Rangers family pulling together, people offering their help. But as you can see, as we all know,
and it's all funded through Rangers supporters as well.
All funded by Rangers supporters, donations that come in from the worldwide support.
So this is
James
the late
Wilson,
trainer of Rangers FC as well, right? Okay, so James Wilson.
He died in 1914. Now, back then, Mr. William Walton was manager of the club, and he would have been very much a figurehead. But it was James Wilson who was credited with working the players on a daily basis. While he was training at the club, we won 7 league titles. You can see the plaque at the bottom there. Again, that will be cleaned.
So he was very much the Peter Taylor to Brian Clough, essentially, that kind of relationship.
Glasgow Cup, 6 Glasgow Charity Cups. He was a much loved individual, he was a governed man, a local man, and again, the newspaper reports that Gordon found has said that on the day of his funeral, the streets were lined all the way from Ibrox all the way up here to Craigton Cemetery. There was thousands upon thousands of people turned out, stood in silence to pay their respects to James Wilson.
And you've got your Founders Trail plaque as well.
He's actually credited with bringing dribbling poles into the game of football for the first time. So very much his influence is still being felt today.
That's the newspaper clip, and that's where we're standing just now. That's the people that James Wilson.
Oh, so that's how many people were here to
and that was the gates that we come in, the cortege would come in.
And he wasn't a player, he wasn't the manager, but he was a coach of the team, and that's how much he was obviously respected by all the fans.
This is another one of the club trainers, a stone.
So just that looks like
John
a
Taylor,
very well kept grave.
When we found Mr. Taylor's final resting place, it was unmarked, but we managed to go through the process again, and we got a stone placed on his final resting place.
So it's not like some of the ones where you find them and the graves are still here, but they're just fell into disrepair. This was completely unmarked, right?
John Taylor, as you can see there, was training from the club from 1885 until 1897. We won the Scottish League, our first ever Scottish League title in 1890. Our first Scottish Cup in 1894, and 4 Glasgow Cups and 1 Charity Cup. And there's nothing more satisfying doing the restoration of Rangers Graves project than to be able to put a stone onto
on an unmarked grave, especially, I imagine.
A guy like that contributed so much to the club is lying in an unmarked grave.
Yeah, sad to think, isn't it?
It's really sad. But again, that's another thing that's one that's been put to right. Again, and it's only possible because of the donations that we receive for the worldwide Rangers support.
Here we are at Bill Struth's grave now. So I've been here before for a previous video, and you were telling me that this was original, right? But you and the work that you did got the plaque put in.
But back in 2016, to mark the anniversary of Mr. Struth's passing, we were put in contact with his family via the club, and we asked if we could put this ground plate in. It of course mentions there that Mr. Struth was manager of Rangers Football Club, but we thought with his incredible contribution, with those 18 league championships, Scottish Cups, the League Cups you can see listed there, that it would be fitting to put this ground plate in. And the family gave the consent, and they've since been along to pay their own respects. There's a wonderful term that's used, and it's an accurate term, that through the years of Rangers Football Club, Rangers as a family, we've just been to 4 different plots there. Now literally that torch that was lit in Fleshers Haugh was passed from Peter McNeill along to John Taylor. When John Taylor passed, he passed it up to James Wilson, and James Wilson passed it along here to Mr. Struth when he passed. Mr. Struth joined the club in 1914 when James Wilson passed as a trainer. When Mr. Wilson passed in 1920, that's when Bill Struth stepped up from the trainer's tracksuit, if you like, into the manager's office to begin an incredible 34-year reign at our club. That will never be matched in world football. A manager at one club for 34 years, and to bring that Hall of Honours is nothing short of incredible. Once again, during the winter months, you can stand in Mr. Struth's final racing spot and see Ibrox, just through there. Stadium.
Thank you so much for showing me around today. I've absolutely loved learning a bit more about Rangers. Why should fans take an interest in the early history of the club?
Our club has got a history like no other, and you know, I don't say that loosely. We've got a history like no other, and the more people that get an understanding of exactly what Rangers Football Club's about and what it means, the better. Yeah. You know, that it was about kids. You know, it's a brilliant Glasgow story and a brilliant people story. You know, and it was about kids who fought hard to ensure that our club survived. There was many clubs went to the wall back then. But our guys, as I say, were training 6 nights a week, making sure Rangers were the best. The more people get an understanding of that, the better.
And what does it mean to you both to be Rangers fans?
It's a way of life, isn't it? It's even if we weren't doing this, our life would just been golf for Rangers anyway. You just need to look around. You go to that store Sunday morning, there's a big huge queue.
For a training top.
Spend
amazing.
60-70 quid in a training top.
Unbelievable.
It's a fantastic club, it just grabs you.
And for anyone watching, I've absolutely loved my day here, and you've given me some things to take away, and you're of course from the Founders Trail yourselves, and I'll obviously include all of your information below. But there's been a bit of a backlog, and it's going to take a while of course to get through all the people that will want to take the tour. So have you got like a message that you can just tell people where to find you and what to expect if they want to get in touch?
Please bear with us. We are aware there's a lot of people out there with gift vouchers and tickets, but just please bear with us, because we will be back sooner rather than later. We can be found at thefounderstrail.co.uk. That's our website, and all future tour dates will be published there, and we can't wait to get back on the road and take people around about this and tell this wonderful story.
Amazing. And is it going to be 56 next year?
Without a doubt.
Love it. Love it. Amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So how many of you really knew the full history of the formation of this amazing football club? I certainly didn't know as much about it as what I've learnt today. I've done a lot of research into Rangers and clubs all up and down Scotland, but yeah, my research into Rangers has been, there were 4 founding fathers who started it in Glasgow Green somewhere. They had a dream, and now this is the football club. But it was really brought to life today by the guys at the Founders Trail. Honestly, they do amazing work. It must be such a buzz for them to be able to tell the story, and they've now works with players like Sandy Jardine and others who have played for Rangers and graced the turf. But amazing to think that it was 4 young lads of 15, 16, 17 years old who started a football team, who had a kickabout in Glasgow Green, to now having this unbelievable stadium. Of course, the main stand round there, which I've covered so many times in a few of my videos, these gates, and that famous pitch through there where they've just been crowned champions of Scotland, and they are now the most successful football team in the world. And Rangers are one of the most prominent clubs in world football, and by most accounts, the most successful as well, depending on who you ask. I know people like to say Al Ahly in Egypt, but they do count a lot of Super Cups and Community Shields and that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of people say that Rangers are the most successful football team in the world, and the Founders Trail is something that I cannot recommend highly enough. You have to do it, you have to check it out. It's unbelievable. When they have space, like they said, heavens are just opening, by the way. Like they said, there's a lot of backlog of people who have booked tours but were stopped over the last year for obvious reasons. So when things open up again, do get in contact with them and do book the tour, because I've had the best time ever today. And for the mere fact that I'm about to go and get absolutely drenched as I walk to the car, do remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new. There is way more content coming up from all the clubs in Scotland, not just Rangers. I've got some Celtic videos planned soon. Do I go out yet? I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I've got some Celtic videos planned soon, as well as loads of others all around Scotland. But yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed this video. I've loved filming it and learning even more about this amazing club. There is queues, by the way, today for I think just the training top that's being released. So again, unbelievable support from an unbelievable club and an unbelievable fan base. If you've enjoyed this video and you want to learn a bit more about Rangers, or you want to see some more of my Rangers content, then simply search Footy Adventures and Rangers in YouTube, and all my videos about this great club should come up. I'll leave some on screen just now for you to click on, so yeah, do click on a couple or one of them to carry on watching. I'll also leave a playlist and the subscribe button, so you can keep watching or subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.